When did you get into special effects? Like, what inspired you to get into that?
I have a great answer for that. Well, there was a couple of things. It was like a slow build, really. There was always this fascination with altering my appearance, not being me. Believing I was someone else, or finding a new face.
Right.
That was fun for me. I guess I was. There's a strange balance, okay? That part of me is very shy, and then there's another part of me that's outgoing. But it's a pretty 50-50 mix, and I'll go through waves of feeling one or the other.
Right.
And so as a kid, I was really, really emotional, and sometimes I was, withdrawn. And when I became withdrawn, I still wanted to visit the world. I wanted to interact with the world, but I wanted to do it in a way that I could present myself with sort of this barrier or shield. So I started making masks and finding things around the house to paint my face with.
Yeah.
Some of the first masks I made were paper mache. This one's a modern one that I made last year.
Oh, cool.
It's paper mache, but just paper and paint.
Right.
It was all I had as a kid. I didn't have a job. I couldn't buy supplies. And at my age, my parents didn't see it as the best avenue. Like, they supported that I wanted to do theater, so I got to do theater. And I grew up in a church, and my father is actually a minister.
Oh, okay.
And they're very generous, gentle people, very loving people.
Yeah.
Not what sometimes people would initially expect from religious, can get its own taboo
Ideologies.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was an opportunity as a kid to do theater, and the church I grew up in was doing these big performances where everyone in the church that was willing to perform would be in the stage, and we did these productions that were very elaborate, where we do crucifixion, and there was special effects, there was fog, there was big set pieces, there was costumes.
Oh, wow.
So I was a little kid growing up being surrounded by these really big shows that I was a part of. I was behind the scenes, and I was also working and seeing the adults make and create all of these props and costumes. And so in a way, I grew up seeing this sort of low budget attempt at creating entertainment, but also for the purpose of sharing story or helping people.
Yeah.
And that is something that I could sink my teeth into. I can appreciate. And sure, to this day, now I still do horror stuff. But when you strap in to ride a roller coaster, this butterfly feeling where you gather your emotions and your strength, and when you get to the end of that ride, it was fun because it was still in a way safe. And it was an adventure, and it gives you a feeling of growth and experience. It's almost like facing your fears, but in a safe environment. And I think that's kind of my personal message when it comes to doing horror-themed stuff. I'm not just trying to promote violence and sell because I want to show things that are bad, things that are hurtful. But violence is something that exists in nature, and we can't cut it out. So my thought process when I was faced with, parents saying, you can't just like monsters because they're bad. And I thought, well, first of all, I don't know that monsters exist.
Right.
But
Well, they do, but they're
I've met
animals.
a couple of human monsters.
And people.
Yeah.
And people, yeah.
So there is this aspect that, in nature, I could be attacked by an animal.
Right.
And in the world of adulthood, I can be attacked by, I don't know, a corporation or someone that just wants to take advantage of my wallet. And there's a lot to be afraid of in the world. And I still find that as an adult, it's kind of fun to make believe, to put on a costume, to put on a mask, and to show the world that we can be brave, bold, and big, and sometimes it's easier to do that behind the cover of a mask than to say out in the open with your own, personal face. I mean, there are things set up nowadays where people can say and be whatever they'd like and not be doing that in person. So it's not terribly different from the desire to entertain, but also to teach through experience. And I think that's really what theater was. I mean, when it first started, in the earliest days, it's just the news.
Yeah.
It's people telling stories to learn something from the
Yeah.
story. And the story is best told when it's presented in the most easy to understand aspect. So that, what I mean by this is, if you're watching CSI and they show at the beginning of the episode someone's murdered in a very horrible way and there's violence on that table. And for a moment, even modern, everyday audiences view this terrible graphic gore, but they accept it. In that mode, in that situation, it makes them think about how they need to catch the bad guy.
Yeah.
That's what the thought process
Right.
is there. So now we're saying there is a reason behind that violence. It pushes that story, and I don't think it's the storyteller's fault or the artist's fault that violence exists. It isn't. Now, can we take the platform and make it just solely about violence and encourage it being a positive thing? Yes, sure. Politicians can use the platform the same way. So
Yeah, I agree.
You have a responsibility as an artist when you're sharing your artwork to understand how it will affect your audience. I don't think it's fair to overlook that.